Hello book lovers and welcome to Book Talk Podcast, formerly Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Harris and today I'm talking to award-winning author Robert Emery, who writes both under his own name and the pen name of R.J. Eastwood. Robert is the author of The Autopsy of Planet Earth, Book Talk Radio Club's Book of the Year 2018, The Diarrhea Diaries, Trump's Tweets That Gave Us the Runs, and Midnight Black, and his most recently published work, America Standing Strong. Today, that's what we're going to talk about, America Standing Strong. Let's find out more. Hi, Robert. First of all, welcome, and thank you for coming back to talk to me on Book Talk Podcast.
Thank you so much, Claire.
My pleasure.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. Robert, would you like to give Book Talk Radio podcast listeners a brief synopsis of America Standing Strong?
Yes, of course. If you would, allow me to read just a brief synopsis.
Sure.
American Standing Strong brings together investigative reporters, scholars, scientists, philosophers, medical professionals, and elected officials across the political spectrum, past and present, to examine not what we already know, but what we may not or have yet to acknowledge regarding the challenges that Americans have endured in recent years. Now, having said that, if you give me a chance, I want to add something.
Sure.
There are just a few points that support that description. First, this is not a political book, and that it takes no political sides on the many issues that I tried to cover. The words spoken and the actions taken by those featured in the book, well, they speak for themselves, and the reader gets to judge. Second, the book covers many issues facing our country as well as the rest of the world, like climate change, the bad effect, actually, of dictators have on all of us, international domestic terrorism, and more. These are issues that impact everybody, the issues in the book. Finally, at the end of each chapter, there's a call to action as to what we as individuals can do in dealing with these issues, as well as a list of consequences if we don't. That's important. I'm so pleased, Claire, by the positive reviews the book has received in just 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It appears it struck a positive chord with early readers, with a 4.7 out of 5 Amazon rating. And to me, that's very gratifying, There you go. I'll be quiet. I'll let you talk.
That's all right. I have to ask, of course, what made you decide to write this book?
I got to tell you, that's an excellent question because, as you know, this is not my venue. I write fiction. But I had read early books by Bob Woodward, Robert Costa, Evan Ennis, and Carol Loaning. I always have trouble with that name. All of them were excellent investigative documentaries about the former president and his administration. But, I thought, what about the American people that endured a series of events that upturned their lives beyond politics, like the ongoing pandemic, the uncertainty of the 2020 election, George Floyd's death and racial unrest that followed, the supply chain problems, rising consumer prices, and just about everything, and the need for serious government reform, the rising control over our lives by politics and major corporations, and the attack on American democracy, which has upset me personally very much. No one was writing about the issues that Americans were dealing with every day. So I first made a list of the chapters that I thought I would write about, 20 chapters in all. My idea was to gather together, those respected voices and essentially let them do the talking with my commentary, tying it all together. I did 2 months research to find the voices that would support each chapter, and only then did I begin writing. The book took me 14 months to complete. So I honestly, it was kind of a labor of love. I don't know.
Do you think now you've written it, you've had your say, do you feel more peace at heart, or do you think that it was not a reason to do that? It was just to get your feelings out, and that's it. And it's ongoing. Because it's interesting to hear you say that.
I just felt that we needed to talk about all the issues, about people issues, enough politics.
God, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and to this day, there's still in this country that still doing it. It's like enough already. Let's worry about the American people. That's what you are there for. One of the big issues in the book is I try to make clear that the Constitution says that the government is the people.
Yeah.
The people that we elect are our employees.
They're the servants of the people, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, Americans have kind of been slackers on that. They don't realize the power they have. It's in the voting booth, by the way, not with guns.
Yeah, exactly. You say, and I quote from your book, a wave of mental exhaustion has swept across all of mankind, coalescing into one of the most tumultuous periods in recent history. We seek normalcy and it can't come fast enough. Oh my goodness, is that ever true? And what a description of what we're all feeling. I mean, I'm not just talking about America, I'm talking about here in the UK as well. So I have to ask you, in your view, can we have normalcy back? When and what is normalcy anyway? Was it so normal before?
I'll tell you, it's a good question. I can only speak of America. I mean, the real story of our country is about those times of our history when we were challenged and how we came together to meet those challenges. That's what this country is. And, no matter what has been tossed at us over the time that we became the country, we are very resilient, always finding our way back to first base and moving forward. And we will continue to do that, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe Americans value what this country was founded on and what this country and democracy stands for.
Yeah.
At least I hope they do.
No, I think the balance will go back. I think the scales will tip again. I really do. It's like everything.
Yeah.
There has to be. The scales move, they tip, they go one way and the other. At the moment they're going one way. They'll tip back and there'll be balance again. I don't know when, but I think there will be. I really do. So
I think you're absolutely right. But let me just say, you asked me about normalcy.
Yeah, go on.
And I have to say, most would agree that normalcy is simply the desire to live in peace, to support and protect our families, and to pursue opportunities that bring us security throughout our lives. Now, that sounds simple enough, and why not? Life is short. The only goal is to be productive and enjoy the time that we are given.
Exactly. One of the chapters of America Standing Strong is titled, Whatever Happened to Common Sense? Sometimes I think it is as extinct here in the UK as much as it is in America. However, we cannot understand, I'm talking about being British here, we can't understand how on earth school kids are being massacred with semi-automatic guns by, and I'm going to say it, complete crazies that have the ability to go to their local store and buy guns. Just like that. Where's the common sense? Here in the UK a few years ago there was a knife amnesty. People could hand in their knives at the local police station with no questions and no fear of prosecution. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, in the book there are chapters that examine both the lack of common sense in guns in America. As for common sense, I think too often we are guilty of being steeped in our own beliefs, whether or not those beliefs support common sense decisions. And often they don't. Deeply held ideology, politics, and religion often get in the way of seeing the big picture. And it's really disturbing that people listen too much to misinformation, conspiracy theories. It's endless. As for guns, no matter what laws are passed, the problem remains. There are just too many guns out there.
Yeah.
U.S. gun owners possess, are you ready for this, 393.3 million weapons as of the last report that I read. It's more than any other country in the world.
But what for?
Until we come up with a
I had this conversation on Facebook with someone who said, about the amount of guns, and we need them. And I said, what do you need them for? In case we're attacked. I said, but who's going to attack you? It could be the neighbour or the neighbour's neighbour. And I said, what kind of world do you live in? That you live in such fear that you've got to have weapons that will kill someone. Why don't you just believe that you're not going to get attacked? Oh, well, that's just airy-fairy thinking. Well, it seems to work here in the UK and in other countries. We don't walk around armed the whole time. I'm sorry, this is how I feel.
Let me just say that, until we come up with a solution for that problem, too many guns, gun violence is going to continue. My personal opinion is the recently passed gun laws were no more than a Band-Aid to appease both sides, but a long way, Claire, from solving the real problem. Too many guns out there. Why, for instance, did we not reinstall the ban on assault weapons? I find that insulting. What do you need an assault weapon for? Exactly. And I want to go back to something you just said. FBI statistics show that rarely does a homeowner with a personal gun stop a crime.
Exactly.
The few numbers are so minuscule, it's crazy. And yet you pointed out a good thing there in telling me that.
You still with me?
From what?
Sorry, you broke up there. Can you say that again, Robert? Okay. Perhaps the biggest shock to us all globally was the pandemic. I don't think there's one person untouched by it in some way or another, but what gets me is the amount of anti-vaxxers that seem to rise to the surface. Maybe I'm wrong, but to me it was just another sign of complete selfishness not to have a vaccine. Years ago, parents made sure their kids were vaccinated against polio to ensure other kids didn't have to suffer the terrible effects of the disease. I hate to think what it would be like now, that's for sure.
Well, I tell you, there's a chapter in the book that deals with the pandemic, and the blame for so many deaths is placed squarely on the backs of those who believe their right to choose for themselves took precedent over protecting others. As I wrote in the book, if a foreign country had invaded America, Americans would have come together in unity to fight back. Well, all right, we were attacked by an enemy. An unseen one, and we failed to come together. As you said, the selfishness of that, too many who put themselves before. Failed to trust science and the experts in the medical community who work fast and tirelessly in the medical community to protect us against the unknown enemy. I didn't understand it then, Claire, and I still don't.
No, same here. Your books are winning awards, congratulations. America Standing Strong is already receiving great reviews, including, "This book says what needs to be said," and "I found the book to be both enlightening and inspiring. Also, if you ever wondered what one person can do, or if you can make a difference, read this book." It's so spot on, absolutely spot on. Obviously, what you've written does need to be said. Well, look, since this is non-fiction work, it's somewhat of a departure for you, I guess. Are you now going to go back to writing novels again?
Well, yes. America Strong was an emotional journey for me because of the subjects I covered in the book. I mean, I learned so much that I didn't know. It was just published 3 weeks ago, so I'm concentrating right now on promotion.
Right.
But I can tell you that writing books is easier than selling books, so I'm concentrating right now. Anyway, you have to work at promoting your work as passionately, as you did writing it. As for what's in the future, I had a couple of novels in the works that I put aside, actually, to write America Standing Strong. So now I've narrowed it down to the one I want to finish going forward. And I'll work on that. Claire, for me, writing is a joy, and I'm looking forward to getting back to my routine of like 5-6 hours a day at the computer.
As a successful award-winning author, what advice would you give to someone deciding to write a book?
I'm not sure I'm the one to give advice, but since you asked, I will tell anyone who has a desire to write as often as time permits, even if it's only an hour a day, and write a story that you're passionate about, not just what might be trending, you know?
Mm.
Always write for yourself first. That's what I do. I write for me first. Then I polish it for readers. I don't know if people agree with that, but that's the way I do it. Another area that I work hard at is kind of a throwback from my screenwriting days. I used to spend when screenplays, I used to spend a lot of time trying to create interesting characters. Well, okay, so find ways to separate one character from the others, giving each a distinctive personality.
Right. So, Robert, finally, where can Book Talk
I think that's what keeps readers interested.
Okay. Finally, where can Book Talk podcast listeners purchase America Standing Strong and, of course, your other books?
Oh, yes, yeah. Thank you. America Standing Strong is available in paperback and hardcover wherever books are sold. We'd like to mention that the audiobook is going to be out soon. I'm excited about that one because people are now listening to audiobooks big time. Before you let me go, I want to say something personal. Before we sign off, Claire, I think this is about the third interview I've done with you over the years.
Yeah.
And in return, you have done some really great PR work for me.
Thank you.
And I feel like I've made a friend, even though we live across the big pond from each other. So thank you, Claire. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Absolutely. Yes, I consider you a friend as well as a client. Well, thank you, Robert. Please come back on Book Talk podcast again. I'd love to chat with you and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future, and thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk podcast. Thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you. Oh, I just loved it.